and today I am here to review / react to Avengers Endgame. This is the fourth and final Avengers movie, the end of phase 3, and basically, like, I think they're also calling it like stage 1 or something, like the thing that has encompassed phase 1, 2, and 3, like all of this all together, and there's just so much to say about it and so many spoilers coming. So if you have not seen the movie yet, I don't want to ruin anything for you, but there's spoilers coming, so just know that. First of all, I saw this movie with some of my friends, and we all walked out and they were both saying that they were kind of let down by the movie. And I think, like, they just thought, like, it was going to be, like, the greatest thing ever, you know, because that's what all the reviews are saying that you read online and stuff. People are like, this is the greatest movie ever. It is a cinematic Marvel piece. And I do think it's true that it's something that really has never been done before on this scale, having this many characters who have their own movies come together in a way like I don't think you've ever seen a crossover like this on the big screen before. So the fact that they were able to pull that off, I tip my hat to them. Like, that is absolutely amazing. However, what I think I was more okay with the movie is I didn't go in expecting it to be like the best movie I've ever seen, you know? Like, there was definitely, I've said from the start, like from before when Infinity War was announced and they kept saying how many people were going to be in it, I always felt that was a lot of people. And yes, we do need all those people, but it is a lot of people. So I kind of knew that, like, for me, there was going to be a chance that, you know, it was just a lot of people and some people weren't going to get a proper characterization and stuff like that, just because there's no way you possibly have time in one movie to give proper credit and have fully fleshed characters, I feel like, for every single one in that movie. So yes, some people were going to feel rushed, I felt like. Yes, some people were going to have just like their one-off moments, and yes, some people were going to disappear. And for the most part, I was okay with that. I think the only one that really stung was Okio. I can never pronounce her name. Okio? I can't pronounce her name, but from Wakanda, I think hers was the one that I was just like, where is she? Like, I get that she had to help Wakanda and everything like that because, you know, their leaders, their whole family is pretty much disappearing, but I just felt like it was kind of glaringly obvious that she was missing from this, and she was really the only one that didn't get snapped in Infinity War that was then missing from this movie for most of it. So, like, that felt weird to me, but other than that, I was kind of, you know, like, okay, like, everyone's gonna get kind of, like, their moment to do something, but the real characterization is gonna be focused mainly on the 6 OG Avengers. So that one I was okay with, like, you know, that. And then also the movie being 3 hours, that's just, like, no movie needs to be 3 hours. So I feel like I knew going in, like, there were going to be parts that maybe dragged. There was going to be, like, parts that felt overly long and stuff like that. And I think the main thing for me was more towards the end with Thor and Peter and everyone on the Guardians of the Galaxy ship. Like, I was just kind of like, let's get this scene going. But, like, I knew there were going to be moments like that. And I think I was almost expecting more of them, like, to feel like it was dragging more. So that's why I feel like when I went in with these kind of expectations for myself, knowing, like, hey, you're probably not going to like this, you're probably not going to like that. Like, going in knowing that, I feel like made the movie so much more enjoyable for me because I wasn't expecting this absolutely all-consuming thing like I think my friends were. I was kind of like, I think it's going to be a good movie. Do I think it's going to be my favorite? No. Do I think it's going to be entertaining? Heck yes. And it did just that. I feel like it was a great send-off to these characters who have been with us forever, and also a really nice setup for the characters that are going to be taking the mantle over Black Panther, Captain America, probably the Guardians of the Galaxy still. Like, I do wish there had been a little more set up because I feel like there were definitely more opportunities to do things with, like, Tony Stark's daughter, with Harley, with even Cassie Lang. I feel like they really could have started setting up these ideas that this younger generation is going to start to come into play more. You know, like, Kate Bishop's going to be on the TV show if they do her and stuff like that, so I feel like they just could have set up a bit more for what's happening next, but at the same time, like, I get that, like, they wanted to be like, okay, this is, like, closing the book, but it would have been cool if, like, the end credit scene was, like, you know, like, we saw Hawkeye's daughter, like, picking up the bow and, like, taking up the mantle officially, because I really love the scene in the beginning when she was doing the, shooting the arrow, and he was training her, and that was just really cute to see how great she was. And there is Catherine Langford, the star of 13 Reasons Why. She was supposed to be in this movie, and I think that's who she would have played. That's who I thought she would have played, as, like, an older Kate Bishop at the end. So, like, I definitely thought, like, her part was cut, so we don't know what she was exactly, but I do think she was playing, like, one of these characters that was supposed to set someone up maybe, and I kind of wish they had done that more, like I said, but I'm just super excited to see Kate Bishop, so that's why I was kind of like, give me everything. Like, Hawkeye's daughter was so sweet and so adorable, so I was like, I will root for you completely if you are going to be Kate Bishop. So I want to say like overall, but there's just like so many parts to this movie, so it's just going to be like all I can get out. I want to focus mainly on the 6 Avengers because I feel like they were really the main focus of this movie. Thor, poor Thor. I really feel like he got the short end of the stick in this movie. Like, it was funny and there was kind of some depth to it in how he was kind of like, I failed, who am I now that I'm not who I'm supposed to be? And like the scene with his mom and everything where he got reassurance that like you have to find who you are, not necessarily be told, was nice. But I just feel like for a lot of it, he was the butt of a joke and just there to like make it more lighthearted. And I 100% understand that he would be absolutely crushed that he wasn't able to stop Thanos in time. Like, I get that, but I also don't think Thor is someone who would have just sat back and played video games and just called it a day. Like, I think, you know, like, obviously he's mourning, but I also feel like he is more of an active mourner, you know? Like, I feel like it would have been more more in character to me if, like, they had gone to find Thor, and then he's in this basement in the new Asgard, just, like, with all these maps, you know, like that scene in, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I think, where Charlie Day just, like, has all these maps, and, like, just trying constantly to figure out ways, like, if he was the one that didn't let it go, that, like, there's something we can do. I think that would have felt more in character to me, and especially considering how when they snuck into Asgard and they walked by Loki's cell, like, he didn't even stop to look at Loki, which was very strange to me because, you know, like, they really bonded in Thor 3 and in the beginning of Infinity War, and Loki's death really, it affected him as much as his mother's did. So I wish that there had been a moment like that because it was kind of all focused on his mother and there wasn't even, like, a second for Loki. So I just feel like Chris Hemsworth has so much potential to offer. Like, he's such a good actor and he can really bring it emotion-wise, and I just feel like Marvel, aside from like Thor 3, hasn't really given him the opportunity to do that, unfortunately. One story though that I really did love was Hawkeye's. I think that was so interesting, especially considering how much he had been missing in Infinity War and in kind of all the other movies. He usually just shows up, so to have this movie start with him and start with his family and see, like, that was kind of more of like the day-to-day, I would say, like how normal people were affected, because like the other guys were fighting and kind of knew what the chance was that they would all, 50% of them would disappear. So when it started happening, they were kind of like, oh crap, like they knew it. Hawkeye and a lot of other people out there, they didn't know. So it was like exactly like how it was with Hawkeye. Like, they're just having a normal day and then all of a sudden your family's gone. And it's kind of like, it shows the real world consequence of it. Like, yes, it's terrible to lose these superheroes, but these superheroes knew what they were getting into. Like, they knew what was coming if they failed. No one else did. Hawkeye didn't, the regular civilians didn't, so like I feel like that was a good way to show it and start the heart of it, and then obviously, of course, his whole thing about like, because that's what I've said from the beginning about Thanos, I'm like, why are you just like randomly selecting people? Like, if you had just selected like all the Avengers and stuff, then no one would be back to bring you back because all the good guys are gone, you know? So Hawkeye is more in the mind of like, why did these bad guys get to live if my family didn't get to live and they're good? So he's out there like chopping all these, you know, just doing him. And I'm kind of like, you know what? I get it, sir. I get it. 50% of the world is gone. You want to go off and do that? I honestly have no qualms about it. I think my favorite, though, of all of them was Natasha. I just feel like we got to see so much of her character and her story. And, like, people have even been saying, like, Scarlett Johansson actually had acting to do in this movie instead of just like smirking and, you know, hiding stuff and stuff like that. And it definitely showed. Like, she was the one, she had her boots on the ground for 5 years. She was leading this Avengers team when half of them were decimated and really no one knew where to go. I think that's what she's good at. She's good at when there's nothing, when all hope is lost. I feel like she's good at rallying and kind of taking it together and making it. So I really, really loved it. And I love they continued with the theme of like having her friendship with Steve be really strong, having her relationship with Hawkeye be very strong, and I go back and forth on how I feel about her being the sacrifice for the Soul Stone. I 100% feel like it wouldn't make sense to me if they don't get her back when they bring the Soul Stone back, because if the whole thing is a soul for a soul, to me, if you bring the stone back, you should be able to get a soul back. Like, that just, to me, is like, that's basic customer service, you know? If someone returns something, I gotta give them monetary value of the same price. So like, if, you know, I want the same rules to apply to the Soul Stone that apply to like Target or something like that. But I just think it was good for her character, and it didn't necessarily feel like that trope of women having to die for like a man's story to sacrifice, because it was for the greater world as a whole. Like it was for her whole family, not just like Hawkeye and stuff like that. But at the same time, like when we got to the end battle, like I was like, Natasha should be here. Like she's been here from the start. Like she's put in the work, and she's really fought tooth and nail for everything for this moment right here. And it just felt wrong her not being there, you know, and not in a way like, oh, like, yeah, of course she's missing, like that's sad. It was just like she deserves to be here, especially when they had the scene where like Peter had the gauntlet and Captain Marvel showed up and all the women were like, we've got your back, like we'll protect you, to Peter. And then also like, we'll help you, Captain Marvel. Like I was like, she should definitely be here right now. Like it's unfair. So I feel like that's why I'm pulled. If they bring her back, then I'm okay with it. But if she is really like dead, then I'm super upset with it. Because like I just was so proud of her this movie. Like she just was so open and so honest, and she was the one that really like never ever gave up. Like she was there, she was listening to everyone's ideas, making sure everything was still okay, and I really commend her for that, because I think it showed tremendous character growth from where she started in Iron Man 2, and they actually like let her do stuff, like I said. Then of course the biggest thing are Captain America and Tony's stories. They had very different endings. Tony, I feel like was a satisfying ending, because I feel like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. can't keep doing these movies forever, and yeah, it sucks that he had to die and leave behind such a young girl, but I feel like his legend is going to live on in so many people. It's going to live on in Morgan, it's going to live on in Harley, in Pepper, in Rhodey. It broke my heart when you could see him getting the idea of what he has to do in snapping the gauntlet, and he looked over at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange just held up one finger, like, this is the one, like, you have to do it. And it just broke my heart, because even Doctor Strange before, Tony was like, is this the one where we win? And Doctor Strange's like, I can't tell you, because then it won't happen. Like, he had to wait for Tony to figure out on his own. You could just see how heartbroken he was about it, too, because he was like, this is the only way that works, you know? So it was absolutely heartbreaking, but I feel like it was a proper send-off, because after all the crap that, you know, some people don't like Tony. I'm not his biggest fan, I'll be honest. And even how he was, like, fighting with Steve in the very beginning, I was just like, can we just push it aside? But, like, I think this was a proper send-off. This was him making up for everything and really taking a stand and being the hero that he wanted to be. Like, it's come full circle to me with him, where it started with him, and of course it's going to be the one that ends with him, and he's going to save everyone, and everyone's going to live on, you know, it's going to live on in Peter, it's going to live on, everyone's going to live their lives and try and make him proud. And I think that's really great. Steve's story, on the other hand, I'm conflicted about, because on one hand, I love the fact that Steve was just like, I'm tired, bitches, like, I'm going back and living my life. But on the other hand, I feel like, one, it messes up the timeline so much that I just feel like it was a very selfish move. Like, he was supposed to go back and basically cut all the branches off, like they said, of any futures that they changed by taking the stones before. And instead, he kind of goes back and just creates this whole limb of a tree, you know, in that, like, if he had kids or anything like that, just by marrying Peggy and staying there, like, that changes so much. So I just feel like, one, it was kind of a selfish move. And then two, I just have such a hard time believing that he would really be okay with leaving Bucky for 70 plus years. Bucky clearly knew what Steve was going to do, because like when he went to go in the machine and Bucky was like, I'm going to miss you. Like, you don't say I'm going to miss you to someone who's going to be gone for 5 seconds. And also Bucky was like, you're taking all the stupid with you. Like, knowing what he was going to do. And then also, like, old man Steve had to get there somehow. And my friend is, like, convinced that Bucky drove him there to that bench. So we'll go with that. But, like, I just have such a hard time. I don't know. Maybe it's because I never saw the first Avenger. Like, I don't see that. Like, Peggy and Steve's relationship is nice. And it is first love, you know, and love of life. But, you know, Bucky's really important to him, too. And Bucky's been there through thick and thin. And I just have a hard time believing that, like, after all he went through to find him, all the misery, all the sacrifices, that he would be fine with just, like, peacing out and being like, bye, Bucky, have fun. And also, like, how do you get rid of, like, cell phones and, like, vaccines and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like, there are amenities here that I would like to keep, not give up when I have to go back to 1940. Like, trenches? No thank you. Czechoslovakia is still a thing. They haven't split yet. Like, it's just too confusing to me. So, like, I'm torn with that. Because on one hand, I feel like it is, you know, like a nice thing of, like, you get to go home now, Steve. Like, you fought, you won. and you get to rest now. But then, oh, this reminds me, I was so pissed when he was like, I finally did what you told me to, Sam, I got a life. I was like, that was Natasha that said it to you, and Natasha didn't get a life. She had to die. So, like, don't go with this lackadaisical, like, we're all just gonna forget her. Like, she didn't even get, like, a funeral. She just got, like, a little sad 5-minute send-off with everyone, and I was just like, my girl deserves so much better. But I am really excited for the prospect of Sam taking up the mantle of Captain America. That's gonna be so, so awesome. And then, like, with Bucky as his right-hand man, because I feel like when Steve told him his idea, he was like, I see so much of myself in Sam, and I'm gonna need you to help him be Captain America like you helped me be Captain America. So I think that's gonna be a really interesting friendship, because even the way Bucky was, like, encouraging Sam, like, yeah, like, this is your shield to take now. Can we also talk about, though, like, when Scott was like, that's America's ass, when they were talking about Captain America, I was like, what is happening? Like, Scott was so funny in this movie because he was always just so like, we can do it, and I loved it. Like, I loved seeing him and Cassie reunite as quick as it was. Like, it's so sweet, but then it also breaks my heart because, like, it looks like her parents, well, her mom and her stepdad probably got snapped because we didn't see them. I mean, maybe they didn't, but she's not going back. Like, I'm gonna really miss that little girl that was the actress because she was so funny, but then it's also like, if her mom was snapped, she missed out on 5 years of her daughter's life. Like, she's, what, 16, 17 now? Like, that's absolutely heartbreaking to me, but, like, you know, just thinking, like, we're not gonna see that little girl anymore, and neither is her mom. Like, that broke my heart. And then I also love, too, that, like, essentially, you know, like, it's been, what, 10 years? 22 movies, all this build-up, and the last, like, 15 minutes were just everyone playing a game of hot potato, trying to keep the Infinity Gauntlet away from Thanos. Like, I was so impressed. It was so cute. And then I think they really did a good job of, like, incorporating the new characters. So, like, Captain Marvel, she came in and she wasn't, like, overpowering and, like, taking over from everyone else, but they also still allowed her to be as strong as she is, you know? Like, she was the one that, like, just basically took down Thanos in, like, 3 seconds. And then when he headbutted her, it didn't even have an effect on her, and she was just like, hey, bitch, you know? And, like, when she came and destroyed the rocket, like, I like that they did a good job of balancing, like, her not overpowering everyone else and allowing them to have their story, but then also, like, she was still strong and a badass. And they did all that also with Scarlet Witch, who I've said for so long, like, the problem with her is she's so strong that in movies she often gets sidelined just because if she was in battles, she would end it in, like, 2 seconds. So, like, it was awesome to see this movie they finally got to, like, unleash her full potential, and, like, she was taking down Thanos. He had to call for backup because she was so, like, overpowering him, and it was just so awesome to finally see her come into who she is, you know, and let her be as strong as she is. And then also that scene with her and Hawkeye at the end was really, really sweet when they were talking about Nat and Pietro, because Pietro, yeah, because, you know, they both lost someone, and her brother died protecting Clint, so it was kind of nice to have that bonding moment between them, because I always think there'll be something special there between them, you know, kind of like a father-daughter relationship almost. Like, he did come and rescue her in Civil War and get her out. Well, she rescued herself. He was just the catalyst. So there's just so much I love about this movie. I think it was really grand, and I don't know when we'll ever get something like this again, because they're really going to start building back up from the blocks. I feel like we're going to start getting characters introduced. And I don't even know if we'll have something like this again, because I feel like they've introduced the idea now of, like, separate timelines. So I think it's going to be a lot easier for them now if they want to make more movies to be like, oh, this one's in this timeline, this one's in this timeline, so we don't need a full, like, Avengers-esque movie where they all come together, which is kind of disappointing, but at the same time, this feels like a really special moment. Like, it's something that I'm really excited to be seen, and it feels like, I feel like what it must be when, like, the first Star Wars movie came out, or, like, the final one in the original trilogy, you know, like a really special movie moment. So if you have seen Endgame, please feel free to leave all your thoughts about it down below in the comments, what you're hoping to see now in the next phase of Marvel and everything like that. Also, make sure this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!